Okay, so I finally got myself together after the holidays and wanted to get this tutorial out for you guys about the Seaglass Pinecones. So the first thing that I do before I start is start getting some glass together for the top part of my pine cone, and then I kind of work my way back to the smallest pieces when I get to the tip here. But before I get started, usually what I do is I take the little styrofoam egg. You can get these right off Amazon. I like the ones that are just about 2 inches long here. That way they're not too weighty when you actually put them on a Christmas tree or something like that. And it's a lot easier to work with the smaller pieces, but you can do them any size that you want. So I just kind of roll the end of this around to just kind of flatten it out and sometimes make that tip a little bit smaller as well. You can do that so you can see kind of from the way that I get it to pushing it down and making it a tiny bit smaller there. Then I use kind of a big upholstery or canvas kind of needle, and I will put that through the entire egg here. And what I do is I take this little twine. You can also use ribbon or like gold cording or anything like that that you want. But when I do this, I'm going to trim it off first because these little edges make it really hard to get through the needle if you don't do that. So slide those through there and pull it through. Sometimes what I do is I'll use my pliers and help pull it through. Take your needle off. Put your finger through the loop, that way you don't lose it, just in case. And then tie off. Oops, I got a little stuck here. Tie a knot into this end here. And as you add glue and everything, it's going to hold this in place even stronger. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and don't worry about pulling it through because, again, you're going to add a lot of glue. So then pull it back. I push it so it comes kind of into it, so it leaves a good loop for you to hang. And then use your scissors to kind of trim off the rest of that excess. So there's my start. Now when I start gluing, I kind of lay out pieces that are going to kind of go together. It's really trial and error, so just keep trying different pieces, switching them out, that type of thing as you're going along. And what I'm looking for is just about a quarter, maybe a ½ inch overhang, because I'm going to keep putting pieces up underneath. Okay. I'm just using a mini hot glue gun. You really got to kind of press and hold it for a few minutes, or a few seconds, I should say, not minutes. These I've also found are quite helpful when you use a lot of hot glue, and you can really kind of just get in there and not worry about burning your fingers so much. You can get these on Amazon too. Pretty much on anything on Amazon. And then just work your way around, leaving as small gaps around as you can. Again, when you get to the end or close this top circle here, if there's little gaps, don't worry about it. With the greenery that you're going to add at the end, it's going to cover most of that anyway. This one I think went over there pretty well. What I like about these two is when you're doing this, you can use some of those pieces that might be cracked on an end where you don't necessarily want that to show in a craft. So if it's like got a shiny piece in there, you can still put those on because you can stick them up underneath where it won't be seen, and just the really nice part of the glass sticks out. Let's see. This one might be a good one there. Sometimes you got to play around with it for a little bit. Find a piece that you do like to go there. Oops. You could take your glue gun and remelt some of the extra glue that might be in your way. Keep that last one. Stick that one in there. So now when you see it from this side, you can see we've just got what almost looks like a flower and just a little bit of overhang all the way around. Now start here where you see I want to cover this piece of styrofoam. So I'm going to look for a piece that's more triangle shaped. To start with. So something like that. You see it won't really fit in there. I'm going to take my glue gun and I'm going to make a hole and fill it with glue. And then I'm going to stick this little guy right where I want it. And I'm going to push it in till it leaves just a little overhang. And I take this little cleanup tool and take off that extra glue. And then I'm just going to continue to work my way around. You can see some of these bigger pieces. You can use them either this way or when you're getting closer to where you want to get them a little bit smaller, you can also use them that way. So I kind of pick out as many of those kind of rectangle-y kind of pieces as I can. And then I just choose a few. Again, I'm going to melt a little bit of this styrofoam because I want to stick it down a little farther in there. Fill it with glue. Stick that one in there like that. And it's really just kind of like a puzzle. So I'm going to keep working these around as best I can. I took off my silicone things, but here we've got another big gap, so we want to make sure that's filled. So I look for something that has a little bit more glass on this side and a little less glass on that side, so it fits together kind of like a puzzle. Squish that down in there. Sometimes these back ones will pop off 2 or 3 times and it's just fine. I feel like the more that you do it, the more solid it gets. And I think I told somebody online that I burn myself and drop them enough. They're pretty solid when you get these together. I generally don't lose any or have to glue them too many more times. Get that one in there. Got a little gap here, so I'll look for something that's a little longer. And we're going to go with that one. So again, I'm just going to burn a hole into it with the tip of my glue gun, fill it up, and then I'll push that in there till I get it where I want it. And then use my little spatula here to take out that extra glue. It saves a lot of finish work at the end if you do that as you go. Things I've learned the hard way. All right, I'm going to go with something a little bit smaller right here. Some of them, if they are, as you see, this one doesn't have a lot of gap behind it. I look for something that is a little bit thinner glass, as opposed to this one here. You can see is a whole lot thicker, and it's much easier to stick your glue gun in there and kind of just melt some of that styrofoam away that's in your way. And then you can stick that thinner piece of glass in there and push it to where you'd like it. This one's a big gap here, so I'm going to look for something that has a much longer tail, something like that I can stick in there. This is kind of an interesting one. See what I mean? Such a weird piece of glass. I wouldn't know what I would use it for otherwise. So I'm going to make a hole there. Fill it with glue. And I'll use this little weird piece to stick right in there and close it up. Now I take a look at this other side and just make sure I'm still kind of staying round. There might be some that are more wide or away from the styrofoam than others. That's where I'll use a thicker piece of glass. And that way, as you keep going around, but don't get worried if you get one side that's got a big gap. It does happen. Fill it with a couple of the fatter pieces of glass and it'll come right back in. So we're just going to keep going. Use more of these. I keep my little guys close by. I keep them in these little photo holders. There's like a 4x6 size and a 5x7 size. But that's how I organize kind of all of my glass. You can get these at Michael's on Amazon. There's little suitcases that you get 10 or 12 of them actually together, and that way I divide out all of my glass kind of big to small. So when I'm doing projects like this, it makes it way easier. So we're going to go to this next round. That might go there pretty well. We'll go into that gap. We'll burn a little bit back that way. Fill it with glue. And we'll stick it down to make sure we've got a nice connection and take out the extra glue. Yes, this has a big crack on it, so I don't want that side to show. Can't tell you how many times I put down a piece of glass and then forget where I put it. Burn a hole, fill it with glue, stick that in there. There's a big gap over here, and see how that's got a little bit more of a long end, so it should fill in that little gap there. Again, not that it has to be perfect. Not finding what I want here. Again, there's some extra glue there. I'm going to melt it. Don't even know if that was the right piece of glass. I'm going to put that one there anyway. I need one with a long tail now. Something like that. It's going to overlap this piece of glass a little bit. That's okay too. When it all comes together, it looks just fine. It's a nice thin piece. So all it is now is just going around and finding the little areas that you want to put that particular piece of glass in. I think again, overlapped, that one is good. You can see as I'm coming around now, I've got this gap I want to fill, and I'm probably not going to put a piece of glass that big in there because we don't want it to be bigger than our row before it. So I'll find two pieces that will hopefully go in there together. They might be a little smaller. We'll go like what the next row would have been. These will work. It'll fill this gap here. Some glue in it. Don't remember which ones they were. I think it was that one. And this one here. I can feel this piece is a little bit loose, so I'm actually going to take it out, refill it, remelt it. My daughter's going to edit all of this for me, so we'll speed up all of these next few rows. Maybe I'll pause it and we'll fill in the next few rows, and I'll show you how to do it when it gets kind of closer to the top of the pine cone. I don't know why you always want to call these acorns, but I always do. But as we get to the top of the acorn and how to kind of finish it off there. And then how to add the bow and the greeneries on the outside. But that's really kind of all there is to it. Having this stuff out here first, and kind of putting pieces that you might use out first saves a whole lot of time. And then again, check for your next level. I know I've got a big gap here and a big gap here, so I'm going to look for the thicker pieces of glass that will go into these areas a little bit better and really fill it up and get me back on track. So that one's going to go perfectly right in there. So I'm going to start this next one. Didn't want to stick. Melt it down a little bit more. there goes one of my top pieces. Okay, that looks much better. All right, so we will keep going. Everything feels really good. Still a lot of glue on that one. So again, you just use your glue gun to melt that next area. Melt the old glue and melt some of the styrofoam for you to put in your next pieces. Don't be afraid if the level that you just finished gets a little wiggly. When you stick in that next piece of glass, it's going to tighten it all down. Which side do I like? I think this one. Okay. Another thicker piece because we got a bigger gap. Good gap filler. Yeah, sometimes I go back and forth. Just depends on what I feel like the piece of glass I'm trying to use wants to do. So this one will fit nicely into this little gap right here. We're almost done this next row. I do like trying to get them kind of offset too. I think that helps it structurally. You don't have all the same seams going exactly together. You don't want to have each piece of glass ending at the same place. It wouldn't look right. It wouldn't look natural. So you see this one's like in the middle of these two pieces, and then this one is in the middle of these two pieces. It doesn't always work out perfectly like that, but I find it looks better and it holds up a lot better when you do that. one's going to need a little melting. I did the white today too because I figured it shows up a lot probably better on this black silicone mat. You can also use like those clear flexible cutting boards. There's an area to do this type of gluing on. It peels right off. Super simple. It's another reason why I love using hot glue on glass, even though sometimes it's a little more trying and you have to do it a couple times. I love that it comes right off the glass. If you don't like where you've put something, or you want to switch out a piece entirely, it's very easy to do when you've got hot glue. Not so easy to do when you've got something like E6000 or you know, those super glues that work. Got a little piece of hair or something in here, it looks like. I think it's a piece of the, there we go. Yeah. All right, so I definitely need to go a little bit smaller on this next level. See how this one's kind of a weird shape too. I just want that little part to be showing, so I'm going to look for a little area where I've got to fill a gap that's maybe a little bit farther on that side. We're still looking pretty good in here. This one's a little closer, thinner pieces, so this would fit really well on that side. So that's where I'm going to put that one. Melt it a little bit, pop some glue in there. I have worked in restaurants all my life, so my fingertips are pretty numb to most of the heat from these heat guns, glue guns. I do get myself every once in a while though. That's why those come in handy when you get to the smaller areas, or if you're not so desensitized to the glue. That's a good one. We got a good gap to fill right here. Oh. Slide that down there. That's a good one. Always loved puzzles. I think this is why probably I enjoy doing this so much. Fill that little gap right there. When I first started doing these, I overthought it so much. It took me forever to make just one. But when you start kind of knowing what pieces I like to use or that fit the best in certain areas, it's easy to start kind of picking those out. So hopefully seeing kind of what I've got here will help you guys save some time if you try this. Getting to the area where they kind of look like little chiclets, or little teeth. That's what they remind me of. This is a bigger gap now. That will work. I know it's a bigger piece, but it's got kind of a split down the middle that will fill in the gaps between both of these. Got a cute little pattern actually on it too, so it will work. Again, I popped another one of these off. It will happen. Melt some of that old glue down with your glue gun so you're not adding so much glue that it's going to pop your piece up even more. So just go over it a little bit and then squeeze a tiny bit more glue. Uh-oh, which piece was that? Oh, I gotcha. Actually, I'm not sure if you were the one that was there. You fit well, though. No, no, it wasn't you. Okay, we'll go back. Still got a nice, pretty even circle going there. So we'll go into the next ones. I'm going to try to choose some a little bit fatter pieces to even close it up a little bit more as we get closer to this top part. We want to be able to end it in the point, so some of the little fatter pieces will help fill in this gap a little bit. And you start kind of tilting them in too, where these have kind of tilted out. I'm going to start pushing them in a little bit. Hole for that guy. That there. I don't know if you guys can see it. See how it tilts in just a little bit more than those. And I'm going to leave that just like that. Fill these guys all the way around. Fill that little gap right there. Oops, backwards. See, this piece is nice and fat. It's going to fill in a lot of that gap right there. Just get burned down a little bit. Put some glue in. Pop this guy in there. I just lost it again. There we go. Piece if I can find one. I liked it the way I had it first better. What the heck? There's a good little gap filler. Now we're almost to the top here. We still have a pretty good circle. This last one's not staying where I want it to. So I'm going to melt it down just a little bit in there, add a little bit more glue, and we'll try you again. There we go. You can see we're getting closer and closer to that top. And I've got all these little tiny pieces here. That's all I'm going to keep doing is going. I'm going to start looking for these that have a little bit thinner of an end and a thicker bottom. And I'm going to start putting the thinner end towards the top. These kind of pieces work perfectly. So you want to keep those type of things kind of for your end. These will all work really well. This one can go on a next level. So see, we'll do something like that. It's a little thicker, but it fits really well right here. This one, definitely have to make a big hole for that one. Push him way down in there so he's even with these other two little guys. Closing up the top. Oh, I had enough glue. We have kind of a big gap over here, so I'm going to try to use one of these where I can glue is driving me crazy. Okay, we're almost closed off here. This one I may put kind of on the outside of these two. I'm going to try to wedge it in there. That way it might even look better. So again, you're just going to remelt some of the old glue. And I put it down again and forgot where it is. Story of my life. There, we're going to wedge this in there. We don't want that guy to come out either. But yep, I'm happy with that. All right, we are really super close. Looks good. Kind of uniform. There's always going to be a better side or a not as good side. And that's all we're going to do is look for these little pointy ones that I can stick in here and close off and cover up all of this knot at the end. And we will be done. Sorry about my head being in the way, if it is. My old eyes are not what they used to be here. So I have to get super close. These can be super helpful too. You can put these around your neck and it actually will magnify it for you if it's really getting hard to see some of these smaller pieces that we put in. Don't care for that piece. That one looks really cute there. And I put it down again, can't remember. I think it was this guy. Yep. So we are all pretty good up here. I'm going to try to slide in one more little piece, possibly inside this. You can see all this extra glue right here. Hopefully you can see that. Melt it a little bit. Fill that up with some glue. Sometimes you can help. If it's so small you can't really get your fingers in there to push it in. Oops, I just pulled out another piece. Use the table to push it down, and that works out. So this one was on this outside piece right here, so we'll just glue that guy down again. Again, melt some of your old glue so you're not adding so much. We'll add a tiny bit more. Push that in there. Close off this excess. And as you can see now, we covered all of that knot. We'll clean up some of this glue. And that can be done at the end. So the next thing I do is I get my ribbon. You can use pretty much any kind of ribbon you want. I think this width is always a good one. I'm not a professional bow maker. I don't have any special trick here. So if you guys know a better trick to make some of these bows, I usually do like 5 loops a side. I just kind of go back and forth. Some ribbons have a pattern on them, so you've got to be careful. This one doesn't, which is kind of nice. So I just make 5 loops, like I said, for each side. We'll trim you. And I do a lot of wire work, so I always have these little wires, snippets kind of like left over. So I kind of gather it like that, and I take my wire right through the middle and everything there. Holds everything. And then I twist it. Hopefully you can stay kind of even. And then I just kind of fluff it up the way I want it. I'm going to trim off these little extra pieces here. And what I do, I'll take another little tiny piece of this ribbon just to cover it in the middle. I'm just going to wrap that around that center like that. And when we glue it, it's going to cover all of that. And what I do, I'm going to not do that right now so I can show you, is I just take this piece of metal and I actually push it right into the top of the styrofoam, right next to the little bow. And just make sure it's where I want it and it's how I think it looks best. Tighten this down just a tiny bit more. And then yes, we're gonna just add a bunch of glue to that. Stick your metal piece right down into that loop. Push it down for a few. Fluff your bow up. You can also wait until after you're done the greenery if you want to add the bow last. Since I like the way that this front looks, that's why I kind of left it there. Just take a peek, you know, which side you like the best, kind of what you want to be the front, and do that. You can trim off these little edge pieces if you don't like the way they look. I may even take this out of here so I can show you a little bit better how I put the greens on first. And then we'll add the bow last. And again, great thing about this kind of glue, because you can do that and it won't do a darned thing. So the greenery is just greenery I've bought at Michael's. Super cute little sprigs. I think, you know, during Christmas you can, or right before Christmas, you can get them pretty cheaply. I think we paid maybe $4 or $5 a bunch, and it's way bigger than this. This is just a cut down kind of version of that. Had these cute little berries on it. They're really sparkly. So I just take my wire nippers, actually. You can use scissors or whatever. And I just cut off little branches of this. I've made some that have actual little pine, artificial pine boughs. Those look super cute underneath. This was just the ones that I got this year that I also really like. And then I look for some good pieces that I want to show, kind of be even. And you kind of cover up most of this top layer. So again, where you have your gaps and stuff, you're not going to worry about it because you're going to cover it up with some greenery. And then you just take your glue gun and start adding. These little red berries fall off quite a bit, just from the way that they make them. And when they do, I just take my glue gun and put them where I want them, because sometimes even where they are on these, it doesn't look right. So there's no right or wrong. You just kind of do whatever you want to do with. So I'm going to take off that little red guy, if I can get it off my finger. We'll glue this part down. Add that underneath. It's really curly. This is where some of you might want to wear those little silicone fingertip things that I was showing you. Again, I'm kind of immune to the glue gun, though it still gets me every once in a while. Okay, again, I still like that as the front. Got my little center guy. I'm going to wrap it around this part. I'm going to glue gun that right on. Yep, I still like that as the front. Stick that bow right in there. I think my loop was a little short this time. You might want to do 12 inches on the loop before you tie it off, because again, you're going to lose a little bit of it when you put your greenery and your bows on, so you want to make sure you have enough room there. I think I want to add a little little bit more of the greenery right there. This has a lot of sparkly stuff on it. So we'll lift this up a little. Add some extra glue. Pop this in there. And I think I want to add a couple little red berries there. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that guy. I'll tweak around with this little bow a little bit more, but you get the idea. If anybody has any questions for me or comments, or you think there's an easier way to do something that I didn't go over, please let me know. Again, sorry it took me so long to get this out to you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And if there's anything else you want to see being made, I am happy to do that as well. I did just finish some of my flowers. So if you want to do another one, I can do a tutorial on something like that. So just let me know. Thanks so much, guys. Happy hunting.